All right. So a couple of weeks ago, or well, I don't know, whenever it was, we've talked before about how hormones play a big role in our migraines. So what can we do about it? That's the big question, right? Great. They affect me. I already know this. What can I do about it? The question we all want to know. How the heck do we treat a hormonal migraine? So there's birth control, but we've talked before about how birth control actually can make the problem worse in some people. There's herbs and things that you can try from a supplemental standpoint, but that's about as bad as throwing a bunch of medications at the problem, right? It's just kind of seeing what works, what doesn't, a big trial and error, which, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it's also not really very effective approach. So I have 6 things that I'm going to go over with you today that are guaranteed to work in every woman across the board. I can make that guarantee. It might not be the only thing you need to do, but it will go a long way in helping to balance your hormones. And they're all things that we should be doing anyway. So stay tuned. So my name is Dr. Tanya Paynter. I am a naturopathic doctor. I've been treating chronic migraines for over a decade now. And if you want to know more about me, who I am, what the heck I'm doing, check out my bio in the description below. All right, so we all want to know how to balance our hormones, but most of the doctors, when you go say, hey, I'm having hormonal issues, they want to give you medications. They want to give you hormones. And that's not actually helping to balance the problem. It's basically it's forcing our body into having more or less of whatever it is that we're out of balance with, right? So what should we be doing to work on these hormonal imbalances? Well, every one of us has the power to influence our hormones either in a good way or in a bad way. But it's going to take some work, and it's going to take a little bit of sacrifice. Just a little preview, my big sacrifice was body sprays. So I will tell you what that means in just a minute. So let's take a look at the 6 things that you can start right now to better balance your hormones and gain more control over those hormonal migraines. All right. So number 1, coffee. I'm so sorry to share this part with you, but coffee actually, studies have shown that coffee will slow down our body's ability to metabolize estrogen. And so, as I've talked about before, a lot of the times what happens with a hormonal induced migraine is that our progesterone is too low in relationship to our estrogen. And when that happens, then our estrogen dominance becomes that problem. It becomes a reason why we have a migraine, either because we don't have enough progesterone on board, or when we have the fluctuations of the hormone and the hormone dips of estrogen, that will also trigger migraine. So we're kind of getting it from both ends. So one of the things that we want to do is try to improve how our body is able to metabolize those hormones. And coffee will slow down how your body is able to break down estrogen. So instead of drinking coffee in the morning, you might consider green tea. So green tea still has some caffeine. It is very good as far as having a lot of antioxidants. Research has shown that 3 cups of green tea a day has improved estrogen breakdown in the body. It's got L-theanine in it, which is very calming to our nervous system. Now, green tea does have catecholamines, which they're neurotransmitters that will cause us to be more anxious and things like that. So that being said, green tea it's an herb, and herbs act as medicine in our body. So if you try it and you feel like it makes you more anxious, it's probably not going to be a good option for you. But that doesn't happen very often. And that in itself, I'll just throw this little tidbit out there in case this is you. If you don't do well with green tea, it makes you feel really anxious or jittery, or you start having mood issues or things like that. That points to a particular genetic mutation, variant. How about that? A mutation or a genetic variant that prohibits appropriate breakdown of catecholamines, which is a huge clue to treating your migraine. So that's something I'm not going to get into right now, but if that is you, I want you to write that down. I want you to talk to your doctor about it, or reach out to me and say, hey, that's me. And at some point in the future, I will do a video on that as well. Okay, so coffee, try to reduce it. We don't want to go cold turkey. That's a surefire way to guarantee a migraine, right? But weaning yourself down off the coffee and increasing your green tea, that can actually help to mitigate that caffeine withdrawal. So you'll be adjusting that way. So down a little on the coffee, up on the green tea, and kind of work on that. Number 2, soy foods, tofu, edamame, miso, I don't know, whatever else is made of soy, those things are very estrogenic. Soy has a lot of phytoestrogens. They're plant estrogens that mimic estrogen in our body. So again, if we're having issues with high estrogen, then that can be contributing to the problem. So if you're eating a lot of soy products, maybe you're vegetarian and soy is a big source of protein for you, might be something that you need to kind of take a look at. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it completely, but it might be a big contributor, especially if there's that hormonal component. Okay, so that would just be more cutting back on soy. Conversely, if you know that you have low estrogen, soy can be helpful because it has the phytoestrogens in it. It can help to naturally boost estrogen levels. Now, that being said, soy is usually very contaminated with pesticides. It's also very highly processed unless you're eating the whole bean or the whole pod, like the edamame. Soy also is now, the last study that I showed or that I saw said that soy is 100% GMO, genetically modified organism, which we're seeing as having some very negative consequences on the health of our bodies. Despite the fact that it's still a legal thing. So ideally for health purposes, we want to try to move away from GMO foods. Soy and corn are the two that even organic and non-GMO are contaminated now with GMO, right? So I think that we're moving away from being able to get a clean source of either of those. That being said, organic is going to have a much lower ratio of potential GMO. So if you are going to be trying soy as a phytoestrogen to help boost levels for you, you want to make sure that you're getting an organic product. Okay. All right. Number 3, which kind of goes back to what I was just talking about, is endocrine disruptors, which are chemicals that mess with our hormones. They disrupt how our hormones are functioning in our body, including our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all those things. Non-organic foods, specifically the pesticides and herbicides that are used when growing crops, those are a big, big source of endocrine disruptors. So that's going to be not good for your body as you're working on trying to balance your hormones. So we want to try to move away from non-organic foods and towards organic foods. Now, this can be a very costly endeavor. So one of the places to start would be with the Dirty Dozen. So you may or may not have heard of this. I've talked about it in the past. You might not have seen that video. That's fine. There is a website called the Environmental Working Group that puts out a list called the Dirty Dozen every year. It's updated every year. And that is the 12, so they study all these different foods and the levels of pesticides and contaminants in that particular food for that crop, that year's crop. So for example, and then they'll list which ones are, highest. So for example, strawberries, potatoes, tomatoes always tend to make the list of the worst contaminated pesticide foods. So potatoes, tomatoes, strawberries, you're going to want to make sure are 100% organic if you buy them. Okay. I would do that for anything that made it on the top 12 on the Dirty Dozen list. You do not ever want to get anything conventionally grown. It always should be organic, or just don't get it. Okay. That would be a better option than eating the pesticide laden food. All right. So you can just Google Dirty Dozen lists and it'll pop up. Again, every year it changes. So make sure you're getting the current year, because 2019's list is not going to be the same as this year's. All right. Number 4, personal care products, fragrance. So this is where my story about my body sprays come into play. So anything that contains fragrance itself is an endocrine disruptor. So fragrance is just a generic term for a bunch of different chemicals, but essentially you can guarantee that whatever chemicals they're using to get that scent is going to be an endocrine disruptor. So anything that says fragrance in it, it should be going out the window. This is going to take a while to get there, because your shampoos, your lotions, your body sprays, your perfumes, your toothpaste, in some cases I've seen it, your makeup, your hair conditioner, I mean, you name it, all of our personal care products have fragrance. Probably your deodorant, foot scrubs. There's a ton of it out there. And so when I first started this process and I looked at literally everything I put on my body as for hygiene purposes had fragrance in it. And it just took a while to figure out, well, how in the world do I do it? There are so many more options now on fragrance free. You can do things like essential oil based or natural fragrances usually are okay, although you have to be careful because sometimes they're sneaky and they'll call something natural that's really not natural. So your best bet is to go with either an unscented product or something with essential oils, and it's specifically listed as what oils. But if you see the word fragrance in there at all, stay away from it. Now, to give you a little help in this, the same database that provides the Dirty Dozen, the Environmental Working Group, they also have a database of thousands of personal care products that you can put in, what you're looking for, and it will rank them on a health scale, if you will, of 0 being completely natural and awesome for you, to 10 being the worst possible chemical you could ever put on your body and it's going to give you cancer. And it will rate them for you so that you can see, all right, well, this looks like it's going to be a better option than number 4 will, or than my old deodorant. So it will give you different options, and then you can pretty much find all of it on Amazon, worst case scenario. You can also find a lot of them at the natural stores as well. And they also have an app, which I can't remember the name of, but you can, I'm sure that it's going to be on their website somewhere, but they have an app where you can actually scan the barcode, and it will pull up on the app and let you know what its score is. So when you're out shopping, you can actually do this with the products. So it's really cool. So that's kind of where my body sprays and my sacrifice came in, is because I loved nothing more than my Bath and Body Works body sprays after I got out of shower. And a light mist that you step into, and it just kind of capped off the feeling of clean. And I still miss that, but I can't now. I mean, anytime I step into that mist, I feel like I'm coughing and gagging, and it is so overpowering. And it's just because we get used to that. And then when we don't have it, when we're exposed to those chemicals again, our body rejects it. It's very interesting to see. I miss the idea of the body sprays, but the last time I tried it about a year ago, just to see, because my favorite scent. And I literally had to go take a shower to get it away. And I didn't even spray it on me. I sprayed it in front of me, but just the mist was just enough. So it's very interesting as you work on trying to clean up your exposures, how your body will reject the things that we used to love. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's talk about number 5. I have a couple minutes left, trying to keep this under 15 minutes for you guys. So liver congestion, number 5. This is a biggie because our liver is primarily responsible for metabolizing our hormones and everything else that we're exposed to. And so when we are exposed to a lot of things, a lot of chemicals, I mean, just living in our world, there's not a lot we can do about the air pollution and the water pollution and everything. Like, we do the best that we can, but it is what it is. So our liver has to process all that. And then on top of it, it also has to process a lot of other things. It has to, provide energy for us, and it has to help with digestion and, all these things. And so we largely neglect it. And when we start paying attention to doing liver cleanses, when we do supportive liver support, when we do liver like herbal supports, castor oil packs, making sure that we're well hydrated, all of those things will really help to support how the liver functions. And as it comes back online and it functions better, then we start seeing that our hormones are better balanced. So this is something that you can go just nice and easy with maybe an herbal supplement that helps with liver support, like milk thistle or dandelion, things like that. You can drink teas of those herbs. There's one by Traditional Medicinal called Liver Detox Tea. I think it's great. It tastes very earthy and just kind of, I don't know, earthy is the best word for it. So, that's a way of getting some herbs as well as some hydration in. And then you can also go into, fasting and cleanses and depuration therapy. All of those things should be done under the care of a doctor. But, certainly adding in some herbal teas and things like that to your routine can be helpful. So that's something to consider. And you can also take a look at some of the supplements out there and talk to your doctor about whether it would be appropriate for you to start one of those or not. Okay. And last but not least, I've saved the best for last. Number 6 is stress. Stress plays an immense role in our hormones. So I know I'm going to go a little bit over, but I want to share my screen with you really quickly because I have a little diagram right here. So this is taking a look at our hormones and kind of how they're built. So at the very top of our pyramid, we have pregnenolone, which is kind of our major building block. Our pregnenolone can either be used to make progesterone, or it can be used to make DHEA, which then is made to be, can be used to make cortisol, our stress hormone, or testosterone, which then goes into estrogen. Okay. Chronic stress will favor this pathway all the way down here from pregnenolone to DHEA to cortisol. Hormones like progesterone are the first to go. It cannot be made in sufficient quantities to help us feel good if our constant demand is for more cortisol because of our stress level. We don't sleep well, we need more cortisol. We're under high stress, we need cortisol to get us through the day. And eventually we burn out all of those pathways. We no longer have enough DHEA because we don't have enough pregnenolone, which means we don't have enough progesterone, we don't have enough cortisol, we don't have enough testosterone, estrogen. We start seeing a level of depletion. And this comes after years and years and years of chronic high stress. So think back over your life. When you had your migraines first started, were they around puberty? Were they around a period of high stress in your life? And then you noticed maybe 6 months or a year later, all of a sudden your migraines started coming on full force? Did they start getting worse a few years ago after a divorce and a custody battle and, whatever your life story looks like, evaluate it for stress and how that correlated to your to your migraines. Because the cortisol itself, when it's too low, will contribute to migraines. So if we don't have enough cortisol, that will trigger migraines. So that's a problem in and of itself. We've already talked in the past about how progesterone deficiency will contribute to migraines. And then we also know that drops in estrogen will contribute to migraines. So you can see here how chronic stress, especially over a considerable period of time, will deplete all of these pathways. So I want to bring that to your attention because nobody ever addresses stress to address hormones, and you cannot balance hormones without addressing and managing stress. And so I want you to just sit with that one for a while. The reason that I listed that as number 6 is because it is the hardest one to do. We get into this pattern of go, go, go. We have responsibilities. We take on responsibilities. We have jobs that are stressful. And the thing is that we don't really put enough value on our own time because we're constantly giving it away to other people. And I don't say that in any way as a judgmental thing because I do the exact same thing. Like I feel like as women, that's just our role. We're moms, we're wives, we have careers now, we take care of the home. We have a lot on our shoulders. And we also don't like to say no to people. We are helpers. We want to be there. We want to help others. And so we tend to say yes to way more than our bodies can handle. And when we're younger, that's fine. That's fine because we tend to do it okay, but then we pay for it as we get older. And I see this pattern over and over and over again. And by the time we're 40, 50, we're stuck in that pattern of, well, there's nothing I can give up. Like I have to do my church stuff and I have to do, take care of my kids and I have to take care of the house and I have to have this job. So just evaluate what that looks like in your life. And I've actually had to counsel several patients of mine in the past to evaluate whether or not the job that they were at was bringing them enough satisfaction in their life to make the cost of their health worth it. And I've actually had a few clients decide, it's not. And I understand that I have to give up this way of living in order to feel better. It's a very, very hard thing to think about. And it's very hard to come to grips with that. But I cannot stress enough how stress and chronic elevated cortisol levels and or adrenals that are no longer able to put out the cortisol that you need because of the demand placed on them affects our health, our well-being, our migraine situation. And so a lot of what I do with my clients is we really talk about and evaluate where we can cut back on stress, how we can manage the stress we have to keep, and what that looks like moving forward so that our adrenals are allowed a chance to heal. And by the way, if you don't know, adrenals are what are responsible for putting out our cortisol. So they are under a lot of work when we're under chronic stress. So that was a pretty heavy topic. In fact, I probably should save that for kind of a thing on its own to really dive into what that looks like. But one of the things that I would encourage you to do is really sit with that, maybe write out all of the things that you do and see what you can delegate, what you can cross off the list, what you no longer need to do. Just kind of get rid of some stuff in your life and allow yourself a chance to breathe, a chance to sit, a chance to be. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Save this video and I want you to come back to it once a week for 6 weeks. Each week, I want you to pick one of the 6 that we talked about. And I don't care which one it is or what order you do it in, but work through each of those 6 things. And we'll see at the end of 6 weeks if you notice any difference. So usually when we're approaching things from this perspective, just to kind of give you a realistic expectation, in some cases, it can make a world of difference very quickly. In most cases, we usually see after about 3 months of incorporating these changes, we start seeing some changes in our hormones. So, get started on it, but don't think, oh, well, I've been doing this for 2 months now and I'm not seeing any difference. 2 months is not a long time when it comes to balancing hormones. So you might need to give it 3 to 6 months of kind of working on these things. And again, this is not like I'm going to try it and then I'm going to ditch it if it doesn't work. These are all things that we should be doing regardless because they're healthy for our bodies. So I will get off my high horse there. Let me know in the comments which one you plan on starting with and let me know how it goes. All right, so that wraps up our video for today, and I will see you guys next time.